that's another thing that I noticed. The difference between Africans and African Americans is that I've noticed that African Americans, the number one thing they see themselves as is being black.
Yeah.
And that's different from any other race. Like, a lot of people identify with so many things, like what they do, where they're from, you know, a lot of things like that. But then the number one identifying factor I've noticed in African American is I'm black. Like, that's the number one thing. Like, for me, the number one thing in my life that I identify with is my faith in Christ. So I'm a child of God. Like, that's the number one thing. And then I'm a wife, and then I'm a mother, you know. So, and then race, I'm black.
Or I happen to be black.
Yes,
I always say that I happen to be black, but I've
Right.
never thought that I had to adjust and have this entire identity and see myself and all of these other people because I'm Candace.
Right,
Right?
exactly.
And
For Mayor Trump, and you ain't black.
And I had to remind him that he was a black person, so he can't vote for Donald Trump.
how many times have you been called a white supremacist, a racist, a
Oh my
self-hating
gosh.
black? And this is incredible because you're from Africa, right?
Right.
So this is the irony of this is like the whole black liberal thing is you took us away from Africa and like, you
Right.
know, and they always try to play the like we're African card, even though they've never been to Africa, have no idea what goes on in Africa, probably couldn't point it out on a map. But now they are all about their roots. And now you have a person, perfect. She's born in Zimbabwe. She lived there for 19 years. She came to this country. She worked hard. You're a racist?
A racist and a white supremacist. I
Okay.
get that all the time. And it's just shocking. I'm like, what do you mean?
Like,
What do you mean? So it's just ridiculous. I mean, what you're seeing, I mean, you see white liberals that call me all kinds of names. I've been called all kinds of names by white liberals because they hate the fact that I don't toe the line of how they think a black person should think.
right.
You know, the whole narrative that America's a systematically racist country is a total contradiction to the experience that I've had living in this country.
Especially because the person that caused the most harm to your country is a black man.
Right, exactly.
Right, a black
Exactly.
African man.
A black African man.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
assume as if I had stayed in my country under a black president, I never would have been who I am today.
Right, so it's almost like race doesn't matter. It's actually the values and the principles that people are putting into place. What a crazy, crazy idea.
Right.
The first thing you get called is a sellout.
Right.
Right?
Exactly. I
So-
get that all the time.
You're a sellout if you actually invest in what the people who fought for civil rights wanted, right? They wanted an end to miscegenation laws. They wanted to make sure blacks and whites could marry, you know, that was the Loving versus Virginia
Yes.
Supreme Court case.
Exactly.
And yet these same people that see racism everywhere cannot see or hear it when it's coming out of their mouths.
Well, they want to upend all of that.
Right.
They want to upend, because we're moving further and further away from what Martin Luther King said.
Right.
Now they say that if you don't see color, you're racist.
Right.
I'm like, that's an inversion of reality. Like, I don't teach my kids to see color. I teach my kids to see the content of somebody's character. And that's what it should be. That's what Martin Luther King said.
Anybody know who Willie Lynch was? Anybody? Raise your hand. No one? He was a vicious slave owner in the West Indies. The slave masters in the colony of Virginia were having trouble controlling their slaves, so they sent for Mr. Lynch to teach them his methods. The word lynching came from his last name. His methods were very simple, but they were diabolical. Keep the slave physically strong, but psychologically weak and dependent on the slave master. Keep the body, take the mind.
85% of who we are by the time we're 35 years old. It's a set of memorized behaviors, like a computer program, emotional reactions, unconscious beliefs and perceptions. So the first step to change is to become conscious of how you think, to notice how you act, to pay attention to how you feel. And the act of observing those states of mind and body separates you from that program. Now you're the consciousness observing that program. The act of mentally rehearsing something when you're truly present. So now your brain is no longer a record of the past. Now it's a map to the future.
Chance to turn it all around.
We gave meanings to the experiences of our life, or other people gave meanings to the experiences that we were having. What you believe will dictate your thoughts on a moment-by-moment basis. And then that emotion then dictates what actions you do or do not take. And they're always aligned, right? Your beliefs dictate your thoughts, dictate your emotions, dictate your actions, which produce your results. And your results, when you look at them, then just reinforce the original belief. that which we tend to pay attention to is aligned with what we believe, and so that's all we get. So if you want, more happiness, if you want more wealth, if you want deeper relationships, if you want to have more joy, you want to have more fun, you want to achieve your full potential and really make an impact in the world, then what's really important is to get clear on what that could look like. It's intimately connected to imagination. So as we're getting clear on something, we're beginning to see what that thing is that we're getting more clarity on. If you're willing to invest time in getting clearer around something or imagining, you build neural networks that represent the memory of an experience that has not happened yet.
Step away from that fear and begin to see that there's wonder and beauty and opportunity all around. It begins to activate the part of your brain that's full of imagination, creativity, and beauty. We are meaning machines. We not only give meaning to meaningless things, we make meaningful things meaningless.
To help you to find, take back, and keep your righteous mind. Because obviously you have lost it.